Eu vou agradecer ele por ele estar aqui, tá? Então, John, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure for us. For me, it's like I'm a little guy and I see Neymar right on me. I'm nervous and shaking, all of that. So thanks for being here. I hope you can enjoy your presentation here with us.
Thank you. Is there going to be any type of translation, or is it just...
No,
okay. Okay. Bom dia.
Bom dia.
First of all, I apologize, but that's the last Portuguese you will hear out of me today. I would like to introduce Kawan. He is my Brazilian godson. He lives here in Curitiba. Oops. That's okay. So, I am the Chief Executive Officer of a company called Optin. And we pronounce it Optin because you can either opt into something or accept something, or you can opt out of something and reject it. And we hope that you opt in to our company and our software. We have various trademarks. I will tell you that trademarks are one of the few things that Richard Stallman agrees with intellectual property. So I'm happy that Richard can agree with us. As I said, you call the company Optin. The company is about 5 years old, and we are made up of people who believe in open source. I am the CEO. Alex Karasulu started the company and is our Chief Technical Officer. He has worked on the Apache Foundation code for a long time. He has written a lot of the very difficult things that Apache had to do, like the Apache name services. Sally Kuderi is our Director of Marketing and Media. She is the marketing manager for the Apache Foundation, as well as a large number of other open source projects. Alex has developed key products used by the Fortune 50 companies. These are the top 50 companies in the world. And we develop very powerful and very secure peer-to-peer cloud products. We have many places around the world where we have engineers, including here in Brazil. And we are expanding here in Brazil. So that means more jobs for Brazilians. And what we offer is open source. Means you can see the source code, you can get the source code, you can use it for free, you can pull it down. You don't even have to tell us you're doing it. Peer-to-peer, which means that you can set up a cloud with your own computers or share a cloud with other people's computers, and you can share resources back and forth. They're all protected by strong authentication, very strong encryption, so that other people cannot see what you're doing. And finally, we do Internet of Things. We believe that the Internet of Things needs to be brought into the cloud and not treated as a separate thing as it is today. And cryptocurrency mining for everybody. I'll explain more about that later. Now, why did we do this? The internet was designed to be distributed. If an earthquake comes or a hurricane and knocks out a large portion of the internet, it was designed to be able to reroute itself and to get services back as quickly as possible. This, unfortunately, has been broken by the current model used by large clouds, such as IBM, Microsoft Azure, Google, and Amazon. They bill themselves as being inexpensive, and they are. For small amounts of data, you may even get them for free. But as you start to use more and more resources, then you start to get this large bill at the end of the month, and the bill gets larger and larger, until the point where people who are large users of cloud software are now going back to having their own data center again. As I said before, you can only buy things from them. There's no way you can sell things. If you have a solar panel or a windmill and you're hooked up to the electric grid, you can sell the power from your solar panels or windmill back to the electric company, or they will give you a discount on the electricity that you buy from them. You can't do that with the big cloud providers. They only sell things to you. The Internet of Things is going to generate massive amounts of data, huge amounts. And the concept of sending all of that data a long distance to have it processed in the cloud just to give you the answer coming back is a very bad model. With Supertie, you can set up local clouds to process that data and only send back the little bit of data which you absolutely need to solve your problem. The large cloud providers also don't give you very much control about where you store your data or where you do your processing. Now, I've been coming to Brazil since 1996. And a few years ago, I came to Brazil and I said, you know, you simply can't trust my country anymore. I used to think that our Constitution provided the security and the privacy that you should have. But then the Patriot Act of 2001 destroyed that model. And I came to Brazil and I said, you have to protect yourself. And you listened to me, you kind of smiled, you said, oh, Maddog, it's okay. Until a few years later, Edward Snowden revealed that my national security agency, the NSA, was reading Dilma's email. And then you stopped laughing. But the problem still exists. And if you follow Mr. Snowden over in Russia, he will tell you stories about people in the NSA sending around explicit sexual pictures that you may send to your wife, to your sweetheart, or whatever, and they pass them around and laugh at them. Now, they shouldn't have the right to look at those pictures, because they're your private pictures, but they can and they do. And so you need to have the privacy for your medical information, for your personal information, that you should have the right to say who can see that. Now, under USA law, if my government gets a subpoena and goes to Microsoft or goes to Amazon, they will force those companies to show them your data. And actually, because you're not a US citizen, they don't even have to do that. So this is a problem that's really bad for countries outside of the United States. It is still bad for countries inside. And finally, hackers tend to concentrate on very large providers. You've all heard issues of people breaking into systems, stealing credit cards, stealing personal information, and then using that. They tend to target large customers or large clouds because that's where all the data is. And so by having smaller clouds that you set up, you're less of a target for this. And this is where Supertie comes in. About 90% of the world's computing resources go unused. You look in a hospital, they have computers all over the place. What happens is every once in a while, a nurse comes along or a doctor comes along, hits the keyboard, does a little bit of processing, and then walks off. But the rest of the time, that computer is just sitting there, in effect, twiddling its thumbs. This is true all through the world. And what, just like Airbnb, allowed people to see resources like bedrooms and apartments and condos that weren't being used and being able to then be used by other people, so Supertie allows you to see computing resources that aren't being used and to utilize that. Now, the Supertie product line is made up of three main types. First of all, the open source peer-to-peer cloud software. You install this software on every computer that you want to have in the cloud. You can then make the connections to share the resources back and forth. You don't need anything else. However, you need to know where those resources are, and you may not. So the next part of that is what we call our bazaar, our marketplace. And that allows you to register your components with the bazaar and using smart contracts, buy and sell resources back and forth at high speed to be able to use the cloud resources that are out there. This can actually allow you to make money with your resources that are being underutilized. The third part of it is the blockchain router. This is a piece of hardware. It's an open hardware project. The design is up on GitHub. And it's a regular broadband router like you have in your house right now. It does Wi-Fi, it does wired routing. However, it has a few other things. Number one, it can be an IoT gateway. So if you like working with an Arduino, and I know that Alvaro is out there someplace, and you want to design an Internet of Things project for your house, you can take your Arduino Shield and mount it on our router and allow the router to control those devices. Or if you like a Raspberry Pi, we have the same 40 GPIO pins that the Raspberry Pi has, which you can then use to set up your Internet of Things project with that. We have RAID on there. It is a software-defined but hardware-controlled RAID. It allows you to do all levels of RAID and to set up your router as a network-attached storage device. This cuts down on the amount of traffic going out and forth to your ISP, and it also gives you extremely fast speeds in your house for streaming videos and other types of things. It has a very secure TPM structure. So we use fuzzy logic designed by a gentleman named Albert Aho. For those of you who use Unix or Linux and you use the program called awk, the A in awk stands for Aho. He has designed this fuzzy logic method of looking at all of the packets going in and out of the system to determine if there are viruses there, to determine if there's something going wrong with the system. And if it is, it shuts it down. Because you don't want your things contaminating the network, and you don't want your network contaminating the things. So we take security very, very seriously. And the final thing that our blockchain router does is it mines cryptocurrency. Now, in mining cryptocurrency, the first people started with just using the CPU. But that became very slow as the blockchains got larger and larger. So they switched to using GPUs. And you may have read lots of discussion about how much electricity is being used by these GPUs to mine blockchain. Then they switched to ASICs. And ASICs are very efficient. However, they're also fixed in their functionality. And we use an FPGA, which is almost as efficient as an ASIC, but you can change the programming to meet your needs or if the blockchain changes. And all of these things are in this blockchain router. One more thing about this blockchain router, it's going to be manufactured here in Brazil. So we are going to be producing this at the lowest possible cost so that people can utilize this router to mine cryptocurrency and also to have a good router in their house. Now the Supertie cloud software is open source. Anyone can share or barter their resources using it. And it does harness IoT to do that processing out of what we call the edge of the cloud or the fog. In IoT these days, typically there's an application which attaches to the things, and then the application controls the things, and the application puts the data into the cloud. We think that's a broken model. In our model, every single thing is another part of the cloud. And so you can have multiple applications attaching to these things as long as they are authenticated and meet the proper authentication so that you know who they are and they know who you are. The bazaar allows you to list to find resources and to list your resources for sale, to barter these resources back and forth, and to form what we call an economy operator. Now, what is that? Let's say you go to a university and you have a lot of resources in the university that go unused. You can actually set up your own economy amongst your students so that your students can buy and sell resources to do their projects at a very, very low cost. They can form what we call a hybrid cloud. And that way they use less of the expensive cloud resources and more of the resources that actually exist in the university at that time. And these people, all of these units can participate in this collaborative shared economy, which we call the economy operators. The blockchain router I went over before, it's a very powerful router. It has a 3 terabyte per second backplane, which is, believe me, much faster than your regular Linksys or D-Link. And it does all the different types of things I talked about, as well as searching out the devices in your home or your business automatically and putting them in so that you can share those resources. We call that plug and play. The entire router, including doing the mining, only uses 18 watts of power. So that's about the same amount of power as you would use in a good Linksys or D-Link router. Now, we do have a blockchain-based currency, which we'll talk about in a moment, but that's very heavyweight for the type of thing we're doing. If it costs you 20 cents to be able to say, I just purchased 10 cents worth of CPU time, that's not a very good thing. So we have a digital currency, which we call Goodwill. And Goodwill is very lightweight. So you typically buy and sell your resources through Goodwill, but you buy a block of resources by using the cryptocurrency. So it's a 2-level type of currency that we're doing. You can think of Goodwill like going to an amusement park. You take your money to the ticket window, you buy a series of tickets, use 1 ticket for the kiddie rides, use 3 tickets for the roller coaster, but you don't give your money to the person who's operating the ride. That's the way that Goodwill works. And there's many ways that you can earn Goodwill. You don't have to use money to do it. Just installing Supertie in the first place will earn you a certain amount of Goodwill. And then doing things like documentation projects and things like that for the open source community will earn you additional Goodwill. Now, who benefits from all this? Telecommunications companies benefit because they were locked out of the cloud market by Amazon and the rest of them. The telecommunications companies are basically now just pipes of data going back and forth. This allows the telecommunication companies to actually offer cloud services themselves and make money that way. ISP and hosting providers like HostNet are the same way. They have lots of servers they'd like to provide cloud services, but people bypass them. And I've talked about some of the other ones, the hospitals, the universities, small and medium business. But even individual users can benefit from this. If you're a college student and you happen to have a machine set up in your room and it's running all the time, you could actually sell services from that. Now, you may not be willing to guarantee the high quality of services that other people could, but then you don't charge as much money. And so every once in a while you would get some goodwill delivered to you, which you could then use for other things. The cloud market size is billions of dollars. And remember, 90% of these systems are underutilized. So this is representing a lot of market. And people say to me, well, people don't have systems on site anymore. They've all gone to the cloud. Statistics say that's not true. That there's a huge amount of systems that are still out there, still not really utilized in the cloud, that they could use Supertie. Here is one of the hybridization cost-saving models. On the right-hand side would be if you were using Amazon all the time for everything. you'd be paying about $2,700, $2,800 US dollars a month. But by utilizing local resources and only using a little bit of Amazon, you might be able to get that down to $800 or $900 a month, which is a big savings. We know there's a lot of people out there who say they are doing this. There's some people who have taken SETI at home and made a commercial thing out of that, and they call it the cloud. It's not the cloud. It's just a CPU service. But they don't do anything in the way of storage or memory or things like that. You can't sell anything back to them. You can only buy stuff from them. That's not a cloud model. And so we believe that we meet all of the other criteria of the so-called cloud vendors with Supertie. Now, small to medium business makes up about 86% of the Brazilian marketplace. The other 14% is large companies. And they are very sensitive to these monthly bills from clouds going out. But they lack the time and resources to manage it well. Supertie allows you to easily set up applications, we call them using blueprints, and set up those applications so that the small and medium business person can click on the menu item, launch the application, and use it as if it was sitting on their own computer. We also have a artificially intelligent module which helps you balance the load as it goes around. So if it sees a less expensive solution, over time it will migrate your processing power and your storage to that less expensive solution without you having to do anything. The Supertie blueprints I talked before allow you to easily set up the blueprints for a rich set of applications. Now, there's an open source project called MatterMost. It's a lot like Slack. One of our developers only took 3 hours to port that MatterMost application to Supertie's cloud model. And now the person, you can just click on the little blueprint and it launches MatterMost for you. Residential customers can set up a home cloud. How many of you are using something like Google Home or Amazon Home or Alexa, whatever those things are? Yeah, the problem is you don't know what they're doing. You don't know how much they're listening to you. You know, it's kind of strange that I sit there in my house and if I try and talk about Google, all of a sudden this thing comes alive. I wasn't talking to you. Stop it. You know, what we hope is that people are going to take Supertie and its IoT capabilities and create an open source home model. And we think that the Supertie blockchain router has the CPU power and the capabilities to make that happen. So the benefits to end users are the fact that your cloud is with you wherever you go. You can set up a live USB stick, put Supertie on it, and then as you go around to conferences like this, you stick your USB stick in their computer, bring up your cloud, and it is as if you are in your own environment at home. That's the type of thing that I am going to be doing as soon as I get a chance to sit down for 10 minutes. We also have a cryptocurrency wallet that fits inside of the router. So if you're into cryptocurrency, you want a place to be able to store your tokens, to store your blockchain. We allow you a very secure hardware-based wallet to do that. So what is the status of all this? Because a lot of times you have people come up to you and tell you about things. You say, oh yeah, when is this going to happen? When are you going to have this? Actually, Supertie has been around for about 5 years. It started as a project for a military organization in Turkey. I can't tell you who they are, because if I did, I'd have to kill you. But they had a problem. They had a large group of people over here that were doing secret work, and a large group of people over here doing top secret work. And the top secret work was not very well funded. They didn't have a lot of resources. The secret work had lots of resources. But you can't let the top secret people put their information on the secret computer, because then the secret people would see it. That would be terrible. So they wanted a secure, peer-to-peer, encrypted cloud so that the secret people could share their resources with the top secret people. That's what Supertie was done. It was done by Alex's company, and when he got finished, he said, "Do you mind if I make this an open source project?" And they said, "Go ahead." And that became Supertie. So we're actually in our 6th major release at this point. It's very stable, it's very secure. The government that they did the work for is very happy with it. And our global bazaar model is up and running. The Supertie router, we came out with version 1.0 as a proof of concept. We only created 5 of those, but they did the work. And now we've redesigned it with a much more powerful chip, much more powerful FPGA, and that is going into production around Q3 of this year, the 3rd quarter of this year. We are going through Brazil and other countries, signing up memorandums of understanding. We're talking with companies in Brazil and the rest of Latin America as to whether or not they would like us to support them with our products. And we are in the process of signing those MOUs. I hope to see you see some of them in this month. And we do have this multinational distributed team. We will be looking for more people from Brazil to help us. We have current partners. We're working with the University of Sao Paulo and LSI Tech in the project called Caninas Lucas. This is a project that is a core part of the Brazilian government's IoT program. We have a tiny little sensor computer called the Flea. We have a middle computer called the Labrador. It's kind of a lot like a Raspberry Pi. It's used for people to innovate with. And then we have the Supertie router, which is an open hardware project. And we are in the process of manufacturing engineering samples of that so that people can see what they're like. We are working with a group called the Vampex Group. We are going to be bringing out a cryptocurrency in the next couple months. That cryptocurrency is going to be called Khan, like Genghis Khan. And you can only say Khan by saying Khan. You're not allowed to say Khan. Okay. And this is a utility token. It is not like a Bitcoin. We just sit there and look at it. Somehow magically it goes up. We want you to use this like you use reais. Better than reais, okay? We want you to buy things with it, sell things with it. We want you to be able to say, I'm going to go out and spend 1,000 Khan to buy my new car. And that's what we're aiming for. Vampex is helping us do that. We are talking with a very large global telecommunications company. They would like to use our router and our software for their customers. We're talking with a national open technology center here in Brazil, and we gave them our MOU in October. With any luck, they will be signing it on May the 2nd. We're talking with a social security and welfare organization so that they can use this to give better service to their 60 million customers. We're developing a certification program with the Linux Professional Institute. I happen to be the chairman of the board of the Linux Professional Institute, so we will be able to create training courses on how to use Supertie, and later on create certification courses or certification tests to see that people can use Supertie correctly. We're also talking with the largest computer manufacturer in Brazil that they might use Supertie on their distribution of computers. Our CEO, myself, I have 49 years in the computer industry. Next year will be my 50th year, and we are going to have a party, I swear. I've had a lot of experience in open source and Unix systems. The Chief Technical Officer has had 25 years in open source, long-term Apache developer, and the Director of Marketing has 24 years in open source. We have a team of 35 people right now, and we're looking to expand. We believe in open source. This is not something that's additive to closed source anything. We believe in open source. We know the business model. We know how it works, and we are going to develop a team of developers using what we call the Apache way. So in summary, I think that the Supertie product line is unique. I was called in July of 2017 by Alex Karasulu. Says, Maddog, I've been following you for years. I have a project I think you'd be interested in. I said, well, Alex, I've turned down lots of jobs. I felt it was unfair for me to use my notoriety in open source to some company's advantage. Then he told me what the project was. And I said, no, this is too good. This is too good to walk away from. And so for the first time in 25 years, I've decided to throw my weight behind a product and a project because I believe in it. We believe this delivers real value. We believe that people can make good businesses using this software and these product lines. We believe that it's mature and it's ready to deploy right now. It has been deployed, and that the router will be ready in Q3 of this calendar year. Here are our URLs. Please go to our website, take a look at it. We welcome you to join the Supertie board. By the way, Supertie was Genghis Khan's greatest general. He never lost a battle. Genghis Khan swept across Asia, almost swept across all of Europe, and Supertie was at the head of it. Unlike the rest of Genghis Khan's generals who were royalty, Supertie started off as a slave, and he rose to the ranks with meritocracy. That's what we believe in. That is the focus of our company, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John. A gente vai abrir para pergunta. Alguém quer fazer alguma pergunta? Tá linha meia.
Hi, John. My name is Romulo. Thank you for our presentation. That was really awesome. Of course, you showed for us your biggest examples of users, but there are examples like me, a common developer, starting a project and setting up using Supertie. How much users do you have, and is it easy for a developer like us to start a project using Supertie?
The answer is yes. So what you would do to start with Supertie is you would first install it on your computer, or all the computers that you had that you wanted to become part of that cloud. Then you could decide what the topography of your cloud is going to be. Which computers are you going to be used as resource providers, and which computers are you going to use as resource suppliers or consumers? And actually, some computers could be both. They don't have to be one or the other. So you can have a mixed model with that, and as I said before, you can also hook it in with your cloud. Now, as a developer, we use containers, lightweight containers from the LXC model, and so it's relatively easy for you to do that. If you program with a Google App Engine, all of your Google apps will work on our site, on our platform without change. So there's a lot of things that make it very easy to use Supertie. Now, you can create your application, and then you can use a blueprint to tie it into this container. So again, a person going to use your application would click on the little blue button, launch the container of the blueprint, and use it. So it becomes very easy for your users to launch it too. Now the interesting thing to me is what type of business models you can create for this. When we were going in for trademarks, we had a trademark lawyer. And with trademarks, you have to put your categories of what your software is like. He says, oh, you're providing internet services or cloud services to people. I said, no, that's what other people do with our software. Well, what are you selling? Nothing. Well, I can't give you a trademark on nothing. Well, okay, so what we're distributing is a software that allows other people to make money or save money with our cloud software. We have a business model. We're going to stay in business for a good long time. But the business model is based on open source. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Over here, John. Here.
Okay.
Another one, the last.
Thank you. We have seen the use of the grids, like SETI, search for extraterrestrial life, but we know human nature. How we can block, like a DDoS attack we use in this system?
I've heard this question before, and the problem with that is that you're denying everybody, every legitimate user of software and hardware because of the evil of some people. You know, we don't punish the telephone company because child pornography goes over their copper wires. The people that should be punished for child pornography are the people who supply the pornography and the people who use the pornography. That is something that should be done by getting a proper court order or subpoena in the legal system of your country to punish you. But you don't punish the person who's got the wires and the cable. They are innocent of that. You know, in the early days of Linux, I remember that there were lots of developers of the Linux kernel who said, you know, I don't want the government to use my software. I don't want banks to use my software. I don't want the military to use my software. And the problem with that philosophy is as you start drawing the Venn diagram of all the people who can't use your software, then eventually you get down to nobody who can use your software. Because there's some part of somebody in some part of the project that doesn't want them using the software. And so with free software, you have to say it's usable by anybody for any purpose, and then you punish the purpose. So could people use Supertie for a denial of service attack? Yes, they could. But they could use any cloud process for that too. Did I answer your question? Okay.
So thank you again, John.
Thank you very much.